There are lives shaped by opportunity, and then there are lives shaped by storms. Robin Roberts didn't climb to the top because the world opened its doors for her. She rose because every door slammed in her face became another reason to stand taller. From a childhood marked by hurricanes, strict discipline, and the quiet wounds of the Deep South, to a career built through poverty, rejection, and years of driving alone at night just to keep a dream alive, Robin became a woman the nation trusted long before it ever understood what she had survived. And just when she finally reached the peak of her success, when millions depended on her strength every morning, fate struck her in the most devastating ways: cancer, MDS, the deaths of the people she loved the most. Hidden grief, a love she was forced to protect in silence. This is not the story of a television star. This is the story of a fighter who refused to break, even when life tried to take everything from her. And today, at 65, after every storm she has walked through, Robin Roberts stands in a chapter built not on survival, but on strength, peace, and a love that never gave up. If you think you know her story, you've only seen the surface. The truth is far harder and far more inspiring. Some legends are born in calm, but Robin Roberts was forged in storms. She entered the world on November 23, 1960, in Tuskegee, Alabama, a place known for pride, discipline, and history. Her father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, was one of the Tuskegee Airmen, a group of black military pilots who fought in World War II. He lived with strict habits, strong rules, and a serious sense of duty. His military background shaped the rhythm of their home. He believed in order, respect, and doing things the right way, even when no one was watching. Robin grew up watching him stand tall, move with purpose, and carry himself like a man who understood life's harsh realities. On the other side of the home was her mother, Lucy Marion. She balanced the house with softness, music, and faith. She sang, she encouraged, and she made sure her children felt supported even when the world outside felt cold. She taught Robin the power of kindness and how to keep hope alive, especially when life felt unfair. Together, her parents created a home that was both firm and loving, a place where discipline and tenderness lived side by side. Growing up as the youngest of 4 children, Robin learned early that she had to listen, observe, and work hard. Her parents did not give easy praise. They expected effort, manners, and responsibility. Their expectations were not meant to break her, but to prepare her. She later said that her parents raised her on the 3 Ds: discipline, determination, and Lord. These 3 values became the foundation of her life. They helped her stay grounded, respectful, and strong as she grew older. But childhood was not simple. Robin grew up during a time when segregation and racial tension still shaped everyday life in Alabama and Mississippi. She learned at a young age that some people judged her before she even spoke. She saw how certain doors opened slowly or not at all for black families. These early experiences taught her to stay alert, to work harder, and to carry herself with calm strength even when she felt ignored or underestimated. Instead of letting these moments weaken her, they helped build her resilience. She understood that the world could be unfair, but she also understood that she had the right to dream and push forward. When she was 8 years old, her family moved to Pass Christian, Mississippi. It was a small coastal town with a beautiful shoreline, but also a history of violent storms. In 1969, Hurricane Camille struck with unbelievable force. Robin remembered how the sky turned dark and the wind sounded like it was tearing the world apart. She saw houses break apart, trees snap, and families rushing to protect what little they had. The next day, she walked through streets filled with debris and broken memories. That storm left a deep mark on her mind. It showed her that life can change in a moment, and that safety is never promised. But it also taught her how to stay calm during chaos and how to rebuild when everything feels lost. These storms, both emotional and physical, shaped her personality. They taught her vigilance, patience, and inner strength. She learned to look for solutions instead of panicking. She learned to stay steady when others fell apart. This way of thinking followed her into adulthood and helped her through some of her hardest battles later in life. The strength she used on national television in her famous health struggles started forming in these early years. Robin also discovered sports during her childhood. Basketball and tennis became her passion, her escape, and her training ground. She was tall, fast, and competitive, but also humble. Sports gave her confidence without arrogance. They taught her teamwork, discipline, and how to push her body and mind beyond comfort. Whenever life felt tough, she found freedom on the court. Coaches noticed her talent, teachers admired her focus, and her family saw that sports gave her a healthy way to express her drive. In school, Robin worked hard, studied consistently, and respected her teachers. She was not the loudest student, but she was dependable and thoughtful. When she graduated from high school in 1979, she earned the title of salutatorian. This achievement reflected years of effort, discipline, and respect for learning. It also showed that she balanced academics and athletics with maturity far beyond her age. By the time she was a teenager, Robin had developed a personality that mixed humility with quiet confidence. She did not brag or seek attention, but she carried a fire inside her. She wanted to succeed not for applause, but because she believed in giving her best. Her family's discipline, her mother's warmth, the storms she survived, and the racial barriers she witnessed all came together to shape a young woman who was determined, thoughtful, and mentally strong. She didn't yet know what her future held, but she knew she wanted to do something meaningful. She wanted to make her family proud. All these early experiences created the foundation of the woman the world would one day admire. Robin's story did not begin with fame or opportunity. It began with storms, rules, love, fear, strength, and the courage to keep moving forward even when the path was unclear. Her childhood built the armor she later needed for some of the greatest battles of her life. But the storms of childhood were nothing compared to the brutality waiting for her when she first stepped into the world of television. A world that had no place for a young black woman who refused to shrink. Before fame, before television history was rewritten, Robin Roberts was just a young woman whispering to herself, "Hold on, Robin, hold on." She was 22 when she stepped into her first newsroom at WDAM in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. She had a fresh college degree, a determined heart, and a dream much bigger than the life she was living. But reality hit her hard the moment she received her first paycheck. The salary was so low that she later joked she earned more money babysitting during college. It wasn't really a joke. It was her truth. She worked long days that stretched into nights, sometimes 12 to 14 hours, and still struggled to cover basic needs. Her early years were filled with small apartments where cold air slipped through the windows, and she sometimes had to wrap herself in extra blankets because turning on the heater meant spending money she didn't have. She drove old, worn-out cars that made strange sounds, broke down without warning, and forced her to pray every time she turned the key. Many nights she sat in those cars after a long shift, mentally calculating whether she had enough gas to make it to the next assignment. Working as a sports reporter meant carrying heavy equipment, setting up cameras, and filming games on her own. There were no assistants, no special treatment, and no one waiting to help her. She loaded tripods, cameras, cables, and lights into the trunk of her unreliable car, then traveled from one high school or small stadium to another, often on quiet, empty highways late at night. She had to stay alert, even when she was exhausted, because she was alone and had no safety net. And even when she put in the work, she learned quickly that effort didn't shield her from judgment. Some men in the newsroom didn't take her seriously. She remembered one coworker walking past her and saying, "Sports isn't a place for women." The words were sharp and dismissive, but she swallowed the hurt and kept moving. At games, some athletes would laugh or stare, wondering why a young black woman was holding a microphone in a field dominated by men. Some viewers even questioned her presence on air. These moments stung deeply, but she learned not to show it. She told herself that respect would come from consistency, not emotion. Still, she couldn't avoid moments of doubt. Late at night, when she was editing tapes alone in the newsroom, the building almost silent, she questioned whether she had made a mistake choosing this career. The editing machines hummed, the clock ticked, and she wondered if anyone would ever see her true ability. Sometimes she left the newsroom close to midnight, driving home with tired eyes and a heavier heart. She whispered small prayers on those drives, asking for guidance, strength, and a sign that she was on the right path. From age 22 to 28, her life was a cycle of survival. She wasn't building luxury. She was building grit. She wasn't chasing handouts. She was fighting for a chance. And because opportunities were limited in one place, she kept moving, hoping the next city would bring her a step closer to her dream. She moved from Hattiesburg to Biloxi in 1984, trying to gain experience and more visibility. Then to Nashville in 1986, where she learned new skills but still struggled with loneliness and long hours. In 1988, she moved to Atlanta, which became the most important turning point of her early career. Each move meant starting over. New bosses, new coworkers, new neighborhoods, no friends, no familiarity. Every time she packed up her small belongings and drove to another city, she felt like she was rebuilding her life from zero. She often questioned how long she could live like this, chasing jobs that barely paid enough, constantly proving herself to people who already doubted her, and carrying responsibilities that exhausted her physically and mentally. But slowly, something began to change. In Atlanta, she covered the Atlanta Braves, and that exposure opened new doors. Her on-air presence became sharper, calmer, and more confident. People noticed her ability to explain sports with clarity and warmth. She wasn't just reading scores. She made viewers feel connected to the stories behind the athletes. Inside herself, she also felt a shift. She no longer saw herself as a girl waiting for approval. She felt herself becoming the kind of professional who didn't need validation to believe she belonged. Robin had spent years trying to prove she deserved a seat at the table. But in Atlanta, she finally realized she wasn't chasing acceptance anymore. She was becoming undeniable. Her hard work, her long nights, her constant push to be better were finally showing results. She felt a new strength growing inside her, the kind that comes from years of struggle and years of refusing to quit. Still, nothing about her journey was comfortable. She continued to work overtime, carry equipment, and drive long distances to cover sports events. But now she moved with a sense of purpose instead of desperation. She wasn't surviving anymore, she was rising. During this time, she also learned the power of staying steady. She didn't brag, she didn't complain, and she didn't allow bitterness to grow inside her. She focused on her work and trusted that consistency would open the doors that doubt tried to close. And little by little, Atlanta became the stage where her talent could finally be seen by larger networks. She didn't know when her breakthrough would come, but she felt it getting closer. Her years of hardship did not make her weaker. They shaped her into someone who refused to give up, someone who could carry pressure and still move forward with grace. Every long night, every quiet tear, every moment of doubt built layers of strength she would need for the future. But just when the doors of opportunity finally cracked open, fate would test whether she was ready to walk through them, or collapse before she reached the threshold. Sometimes success doesn't arrive with applause. It arrives after 7 years of silence. That is what happened when Robin Roberts finally received the call that changed her life. In 1990, ESPN reached out and offered her a position. It was the opportunity she had been fighting for through long nights, low pay, and constant doubt. When she held the phone in her hand, she felt a mix of shock, relief, and quiet pride. She wasn't being handed a favor. She had earned this moment with every mile she drove, every tape she edited past midnight, and every insult she ignored. The girl who once whispered to herself to hold on now had proof that her struggle meant something. Moving to ESPN was not just a new job. It was a complete shift in her life. She went from small newsrooms with limited resources to a national network where millions of viewers tuned in daily. The lonely grind of local stations became the stepping stone to national recognition. For the first time, she felt that the world was finally seeing her hard work instead of looking past her. But the real transformation happened inside her. She began to carry herself differently. She understood that she had survived the hardest years of her early career, and now she had a chance to grow on a much larger stage. Working at ESPN was both exciting and intimidating. The sports world was still heavily male-dominated, especially on television. Many anchors and reporters were men who had been covering sports for decades. There were times when Robin felt she had to prove her knowledge twice as strongly just to be viewed as equal. But she handled everything with calm professionalism. Instead of trying to overpower anyone, she let her work speak. She studied, she focused, and she asked smart questions that connected athletes' emotions with the audience's understanding. She wasn't just reporting scores. She was telling stories. Her style was different from others on air. She didn't try to sound overly technical or harsh. She spoke with clarity and empathy, making sports feel personal and human. Athletes trusted her because she listened. Viewers trusted her because she explained things in a way that made everyone feel included. And her upbringing helped her greatly. Growing up in a home shaped by discipline, storms, and resilience taught her how to stay steady under pressure. Whether she was interviewing a disappointed athlete after a tough loss or covering a major event, she showed grace under pressure, a trait that became part of her identity at ESPN. Some of her defining moments included covering major tournaments, interviewing well-known athletes, and being present during emotionally charged sports stories. She handled victories with warmth and losses with respect. Her genuine reactions and kind approach stood out in a field where loud voices and strong opinions often dominated. Slowly, people began to see her as one of the most trusted voices on the network. But even at ESPN, she sometimes faced subtle discrimination. There were moments when colleagues underestimated her, or assumed she didn't know enough because of her gender or race. Some viewers questioned why she was on their screen. These judgments didn't crush her, but they reminded her that success didn't erase prejudice. Still, she stayed focused. She didn't argue, she didn't complain, she worked. That quiet strength slowly turned doubters into supporters. Behind the scenes, she built strong relationships with producers, camera operators, editors, and athletes. She was kind to everyone, from the top executives to the interns. People noticed. Her warmth made her someone coworkers wanted to work with, and her professionalism made her someone they respected. She learned more about production, improved her timing, sharpened her voice, and built confidence in front of the camera. ESPN became the place where she truly found her rhythm. As the years passed, her presence grew. Viewers began to say they felt like they knew her. This was not because she shared her private life, but because her sincerity showed naturally. She had a calm smile, a steady voice, and a way of bringing comfort even when talking about intense sports moments. She gave people a reason to trust her. Her public image grew not through drama or controversy, but through consistency and kindness. People at ABC News also noticed her. Executives saw something special in her tone and presence. They admired how she connected with audiences without trying too hard. They invited her to appear on ABC from time to time. Each appearance was short, but meaningful. She handled news coverage with the same steadiness she used in sports. And each time she appeared, more people asked, "Who is she? She's good." Slowly, a bridge formed between ESPN and ABC. By the early 1990s, she had developed a unique role. She was a national sports reporter who had also become a recognizable and trusted media figure. She was no longer the young reporter struggling in small towns. She was a woman rising with quiet strength, earning respect across 2 major networks. Viewers appreciated her professionalism. Colleagues admired her work ethic, and decision-makers began to see her as someone who could handle more than sports. Her time at ESPN became the foundation for the next phase of her career. It taught her how to handle pressure, how to speak to millions, and how to stay grounded even when the spotlight grew brighter. She had survived the grind years, proven herself in a male-dominated field, and built a reputation that reached beyond sports. Robin did not chase fame. Fame found her through her honesty, her work, and her ability to make people feel safe in her presence. She was rising faster than she realized, and the world around her was beginning to expect great things from her. She had finally earned a place where she could be seen and valued. But all the admiration in the world could not prepare her for the day ABC made a decision that would change not just her career, but American television forever. Millions woke up to her smile, but only she knew how heavy it was to hold the nation's mornings together. In 2005, Robin Roberts officially became a co-anchor of Good Morning America. It was a dream job, but it came with a level of pressure she had never experienced before. For years, she had worked hard at ESPN, built trust with viewers, and proved her strength in sports journalism. But GMA was different. It was not just sports, it was news, emotions, national tragedies, interviews that shaped public conversations, and daily moments that millions depended on to start their day. Her life changed overnight. She now had to wake up at 2:45 a.m. every single morning. When most people were asleep, Robin was already getting dressed, preparing mentally for the broadcast, and heading out the door. She often stepped into the cold, dark streets of Manhattan while the city was silent. Her breath would show in the air during winter. The streets were almost empty, and the only sound she heard was her own footsteps. She would sit in the back of a car headed to the studio, gathering her thoughts, reviewing the day's stories, and reminding herself that she had a responsibility to be calm, strong, and clear for the millions who would soon see her face. Being a morning anchor meant more than reading from a script. She had to comfort the nation, deliver difficult news with empathy, celebrate joyful moments, and adapt instantly when breaking news happened. There were no rehearsals, no second takes. Everything was live, and she had to stay steady no matter what happened. Some mornings she had to interview presidents or world leaders. Other mornings she spoke with families who had lost loved ones in disasters or tragedies. She needed emotional balance, clear judgment, and the ability to shift from serious topics to lighter stories within seconds. Viewers felt connected to her because she did not perform like a distant anchor. She listened, she leaned forward, and she responded in ways that showed she cared. When she spoke, it felt personal. People at home sensed her sincerity. That bond strengthened the show. Her chemistry with her co-anchors helped GMA feel warm and real. She wasn't trying to be perfect, she was trying to be present, and audiences loved her for it. As the years passed, Robin became more than an anchor. She became a familiar face people trusted during uncertain times. She was there when hurricanes destroyed communities, when national tragedies shook the country, when elections created tension, and when moments of joy brought hope. Her voice steadied people. Her smile lifted spirits. Her presence made mornings feel safe. Then something historic happened. After 16 years of being second place, Good Morning America finally beat The Today Show and rose to #1. It was a major moment in television history. The entire team celebrated, and Robin felt proud that the hard work, long hours, and emotional investment had paid off. For the first time, she allowed herself a private moment to think, "You made it." She had climbed to the top of her field. She had become one of the most influential figures on American television. But behind that victory was a side of her life that the public never saw. There were days she felt exhausted down to her bones. There were mornings when she sat in the makeup chair staring at herself in the mirror, wondering how she would make it through the next 3 hours on air. The lights were bright, the cameras were unforgiving, and the expectations never stopped. Millions depended on her to be steady, even when she felt anything but steady inside. She often carried emotional weight from the stories she covered. When she interviewed people who were grieving or suffering, she took their pain seriously. Even after the cameras turned off, their stories stayed with her. She didn't simply move on to the next assignment. She felt their emotions deeply, and that depth made her strong on air but left her drained behind the scenes. She learned that being America's sister came with a cost. The compassion she gave to others meant there was sometimes little left for herself at the end of the day. There were quiet breakdowns no one knew about. Moments in dressing rooms where she took deep breaths to steady her voice. Moments after the show ended when she sat alone at her desk, feeling the weight of everything she had carried that morning. Fame did not protect her from fear, stress, or doubt. In some ways, it made them heavier. She wanted to offer comfort to millions, but sometimes she wished someone would comfort her too. The pressure also affected her personal life. Her schedule was demanding, and she had little time to rest. She tried to balance relationships, friendships, and family while also giving her best to the show. Some nights she barely slept. Some weekends she worked. She rarely had time to slow down. Even when she celebrated success, she often felt quietly overwhelmed. Still, she never let viewers see her struggle. She walked into the studio every morning with professionalism and grace. Her co-anchors often said that her presence changed the room the moment she stepped in. She had a calming energy that made everyone feel ready for the show. She encouraged her team, made people laugh off camera, and created a sense of community. But she also carried her own private battles with silent strength. Over the years, her role at GMA became part of her identity. She wasn't just doing a job, she was serving the country in her own way. She helped people start their mornings with information, comfort, and hope. But the demands of the job were constant, and the pressure never loosened. And just when she reached the top of her field, one quiet morning, her fingers brushed against something that would destroy the world she had built. The strongest anchors break when fate strikes silently. In 2007, Robin Roberts found a small, firm lump during a normal morning routine. At first, she tried to stay calm, hoping it was nothing serious. But deep inside, she felt a fear she could not ignore. When the doctor said the words breast cancer, it felt like the ground disappeared under her feet. She had spent years helping the nation stay calm during tragedies, But now the crisis was inside her own body. She later said it felt like someone suddenly pressed pause on her life. Everything that once felt stable became uncertain in a single moment. The emotional weight of the diagnosis hit her harder than she expected. She tried to stay strong, but she also had moments where she cried alone, trying to make sense of what was happening. She worried about her future, her job, her family, and the people she loved. She wondered if she would survive. She wondered how she would face the world while her body weakened. She wondered how she would tell her viewers, who saw her as a symbol of strength. Treatment began quickly. Chemotherapy drained her energy and changed her body. Her hair fell out in clumps, something she described as one of the most painful emotional moments of her journey. Food tasted like metal. Water felt strange in her mouth, and nausea followed her everywhere. Some days she could barely stand long enough to get dressed. She wrapped scarves around her head to cover the hair loss, applied makeup to hide the exhaustion under her eyes, and walked into the Good Morning America studio trying to appear steady. She continued working whenever her body allowed because she did not want people to worry. She wanted to show that illness could be fought with courage. But many mornings she felt like she was breaking on the inside. She sat under bright studio lights while her stomach twisted with nausea. During commercial breaks, she sometimes leaned on a chair to catch her breath. She smiled on camera even though her body felt fragile. Her viewers saw strength, but they didn't see the trembling hands or the silent prayers she whispered before going live. After months of treatment, she slowly regained strength. The cancer went into remission, and she allowed herself to feel hope again. She believed the worst was behind her. She returned fully to her work, grateful to be alive, but fate wasn't finished testing her. 5 years later, in early 2012, she noticed deep purple bruises appearing on her arms. She felt tired in a way she had never experienced before. Even walking short distances made her feel weak. At first, she told herself it was stress or lack of sleep, but a quiet fear grew inside her. Something didn't feel right. She went to the doctor again, hoping for reassurance, but the doctor's face told her the truth before he said a word. She was diagnosed with MDS, myelodysplastic syndrome, a rare and life-threatening disorder where the bone marrow fails to produce healthy blood cells. It was related to the earlier cancer treatment. This time, the fear was deeper. Breast cancer was terrifying, but MDS felt like a countdown. There was only one real chance for survival, a bone marrow transplant. She needed a match, and the odds were unpredictable. Then came a miracle. Her sister Sally Ann turned out to be a perfect match. When Robin told her the news, Sally Ann cried and said she would do it without hesitation. It was a moment that strengthened the bond between them. Robin said she felt like her sister was not just giving her marrow, but giving her another chance at life. The transplant took place on September 20th, 2012. It wasn't dramatic like in movies. It was quiet, slow, and emotionally heavy. She lay in a hospital bed while the donor cells entered her body through a small tube. She closed her eyes, silently begging those cells to stay, to survive, to rebuild her from the inside. After the transplant came the hardest phase, 100 days of strict isolation. Her immune system was wiped out, leaving her with no protection against any illness. She couldn't hug anyone. Visitors had to wear masks, gloves, and gowns. Nurses came in quietly and left quickly. She felt alone in a way she had never felt before. There were terrifying moments. Alarms went off when her blood pressure dropped suddenly. She had fevers that made her shake uncontrollably. She lost more weight and felt like her body was disappearing. At times, the medications caused confusion and hallucinations. She later said there were nights she wondered if she would ever walk out of that room alive. But something incredible happened outside her hospital walls. After she announced her condition publicly, thousands of people rushed to join the Be the Match registry, hoping to become donors for others in need. Registry sign-ups jumped by more than 1,800% in a single day. Her suffering sparked a movement. People wanted to help because of her. She turned her pain into something that saved lives far beyond her own. Slowly, her body began to respond. Her blood counts improved. Her energy returned inch by inch. She began to feel hope again. By February 2013, she was finally strong enough to return to Good Morning America. That morning was emotional for everyone. When she sat in her chair and said, "Good morning, America," her voice carried the weight of her long fight. Across the country, millions paused. Some people cried. Many felt inspired. It wasn't just a television moment, it was a symbol of survival. She had walked through fear, pain, and near death, and returned with gratitude and strength. She didn't just come back to her job, she came back to life. She came back knowing she had been given a second chance. But Robin didn't know that while she fought for her life, another fight was waiting in the shadows, one that had been quietly growing for years inside her own heart. Some love stories aren't built in sunlight, they begin in shadows. When Robin Roberts met Amber Lane in 2005, neither of them planned for anything serious. It was meant to be a simple blind date, one they both considered canceling. Robin was exhausted from her demanding schedule at Good Morning America, and Amber was recovering from a difficult breakup. But when they finally sat across from each other, something gentle and steady passed between them. No loud spark, no dramatic moment, just a calm recognition that felt real. For Robin, falling in love came with fear. She was one of the most visible women on American television. Millions watched her every morning. Everything she did or said was noticed. And in 2005, being openly in a same-sex relationship was still a risk that could damage careers, reputations, or opportunities. She did not want to lose the career she had fought for her entire life. She also did not want to hurt Amber by placing her in a spotlight she never asked for. So their relationship stayed private. They became experts at moving through the world quietly, without drawing attention. Amber lived in California. Robin lived in New York. Their love was stretched between opposite coasts. For 10 years, they lived in this long-distance rhythm. They met when they could, sometimes on weekends, sometimes during short breaks. They created small rituals that kept them close. Early morning phone calls, late-night check-ins, handwritten notes tucked into luggage, and private traditions only they understood. When Robin traveled, Amber sent her encouraging texts before each show. When Amber had hard days, Robin recorded short voice messages just to make her smile. Their connection grew strong, but the secrecy carried weight. There were moments when Amber felt like she was watching Robin's life from the outside, unable to stand beside her publicly. Robin felt torn between protecting her personal life and wanting to honor the woman she loved. The emotional strain grew heavier around people who assumed Robin was single. Friends sometimes asked innocent questions. Co-workers made jokes about dating life. Fans made assumptions about her private world. Robin smiled politely through it all, but Amber often felt invisible. At one point, she admitted softly, "I never wanted to be your secret." Not as a complaint, but as a truth she could no longer hide inside herself. Robin held on to those words for a long time. They sat in her heart like a quiet ache. She wanted to be brave, but she wasn't sure how. Everything changed when illness entered their lives. In 2007, when Robin was diagnosed with breast cancer, Amber became her silent caretaker. She held Robin's hair when it fell out. She helped her sit up when the chemo left her weak. She rubbed her back when nausea kept her awake at night. She whispered encouragement when Robin felt scared of the future. She stayed with her through every stage, even though very few people knew they were together. When Robin returned to work, smiling for the cameras, Amber was the person who helped her stand up in the morning. And then, 5 years later, when Robin faced MDS and needed a bone marrow transplant, Amber once again walked beside her. She endured the hospital rules, the masks, the gowns, the limits on touch. She visited as often as she could. She prayed. She waited. She watched the woman she loved fight for her life in a battle that felt endless. When Robin returned to Good Morning America in 2013, America celebrated. But Amber saw the deeper truth. Robin had survived because of a strength no one fully saw, and because she had love supporting her quietly in the background. Their relationship grew even deeper after those medical battles, but the hardest test came much later. In 2022, Amber was diagnosed with breast cancer, the same illness she had helped Robin survive years before. Robin later said, "I was stronger during my cancer than during hers." Watching Amber go through chemo, hair loss, fear, and exhaustion broke Robin in ways her own illness never had. She remembered what each stage felt like. She understood the pain, the fear, and the uncertainty. She cooked meals, drove to appointments, sat near Amber during treatments, and tried to be her strength just as Amber had once been hers. The emotional weight was heavy, but they carried it together, one day at a time. Surviving 2 cancers between them brought a new clarity to their lives. After nearly 2 decades of love, distance, illness, and quiet loyalty, something in Robin finally shifted. She knew it was time to stop hiding. She wanted to honor their journey and give Amber the public acknowledgement she deserved. One night, in a small Mexican restaurant with warm lights and a plate of calamari between them, Robin proposed. There was no big event, no cameras, no crowd. Just 2 women who had walked through so much together, choosing each other again. Their wedding took place in 2023. It was intimate and filled with love. Close friends attended. Amber wore a beautiful white dress. Robin wore a cream-colored suit. Lucas, their beloved dog, walked around proudly with a small bow tie, almost as if he understood the importance of the day. There were tears, quiet laughter, and gentle moments that reflected the kind of relationship they had built. Steady, honest, and full of respect. Now, in 2025, they have been together for 20 years. Their home is peaceful. Their routines are simple. They share breakfasts, watch movies curled up on the couch, take long walks with Lucas, and talk about everything life has taught them. They do not have biological children, but they have a family built from love, loyalty, and the people they have chosen along the way. Their relationship shows that love does not have to be perfect to be strong. It just has to endure. Their story is not loud or flashy. It is a story of 2 people who held on through distance, fear, sickness, and silence. They found strength in each other when life was hard, and they built a home where both could finally breathe freely. Their love became a place of survival and healing, a shelter after years of storms. But even love, strong, steady, and unconditional, could not protect her from the kind of loss that rips through blood, memory, and the very meaning of home. Strength builds you. Grief remakes you. Robin Roberts learned this truth again and again, long before illness ever pulled her toward the edge of life. Her journey through loss began in 2004, with a phone call that broke something inside her. Her father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, had died suddenly from a cardiac event. He was the man who had shaped her discipline, her sense of duty, and her understanding of how to move through the world with dignity. He had survived war, carried the weight of the Tuskegee Airmen legacy, and raised his children with strong values. To Robin, he felt unbreakable. So losing him without warning felt like the world shifting off its axis. The guilt came immediately. She wasn't there when he took his final breath. She was in New York, working, thinking she still had time to visit him again. When she rushed home and walked into his room, the silence felt crushing. His uniform still hung neatly. His shoes were lined up exactly the way he always kept them. His presence was everywhere, but he was gone. The quiet in that room felt heavier than any storm she had survived as a child. She later said that standing there made her realize how fragile life truly is, and how quickly time slips away while we are busy with other things. Her father had always been the voice pushing her to stay disciplined, to work hard, to walk tall. Without him, she felt a sudden emptiness. The values he taught her did not disappear, but they felt painful now, like reminders of a voice she would never hear again. She often replayed their last conversations, wishing she had said more. His absence forced her to rethink her priorities. It made her look at her life not just through ambition, but through love and connection. It taught her that being present with the people who matter is just as important as professional success. She carried that grief quietly. She returned to her job on Good Morning America only days after his passing because she felt duty-bound to her work. But behind the camera, she often slipped into moments of sadness that she kept hidden from the audience. Every achievement after 2004 felt a little incomplete without her father to see it. Still, she kept moving. She used his memory as motivation, telling herself that he would want her to keep giving her best. 8 years later, while she was fighting MDS, grief returned with an even sharper blade. In 2012, Robin was in a hospital bed recovering from the brutal treatments leading up to her bone marrow transplant. Her body was weak, her immune system destroyed, and her days were filled with fear, pain, and uncertainty. Then came the call that made her heart drop. Her mother, Lucy Marion, was declining fast. She had been the gentle anchor of their family, the woman who sang, prayed, and filled their home with warmth even during hard times. Now she was fading. Doctors told Robin she was too fragile to travel, but she didn't care. She pulled out her IV, steadied herself against the wall, and refused to stay one more minute away from her mother. She flew to Mississippi with her body trembling, her strength nearly gone, but she made it home in time. Her mother was still alive, and when Robin entered the room, her mother gathered her last bit of strength to say, "I'm proud of you, and I need you to be brave now." Those words stayed with Robin every day afterward. Her mother passed shortly after, leaving Robin heartbroken and barely able to stand. She had already been fighting for her life. Now she had to fight through grief at the same time. She returned to New York for her transplant, moving slowly, each step feeling like she was carrying a heavy weight. But her mother's last message became the push she needed. In moments when she felt too weak to continue, she whispered those words again, "Be brave now." That phrase became her emotional lifeline through the darkest nights of her recovery. Loss was not new to Robin, but losing both parents created a kind of emptiness she never fully put into words. Yet, in that emptiness, something else began to grow. A deeper understanding of life, a sharper empathy for others who suffered, and a new kind of strength that only people who have been broken can develop. Around the same time, she carried another grief that stayed quietly inside her. Her close friend Joel Siegel, a beloved film critic and longtime Good Morning America colleague, had been battling colon cancer. He was someone Robin trusted deeply. Their friendship was built on shared early mornings, inside jokes whispered during commercial breaks, and honest conversations away from the spotlight. He always tried to protect others from his pain, often joking even when he felt weak. but she saw the truth in his eyes, the hope and the fear mixed together. When Joel passed in 2007, Robin was devastated. His death felt like another blow from life at a time when she was already struggling emotionally. What she didn't know then was that watching Joel's journey, his courage, his humor despite pain, his way of facing illness with dignity, would later guide her through her own battles with cancer and MDS. His suffering became a quiet map she followed when she felt lost. He had taught her, without meaning to, that fear can exist alongside strength, and that courage isn't loud, it's steady. All these losses, her father, her mother, her dear friend, slowly reshaped her. She became more compassionate, more understanding, and more aware of the fragile threads holding life together. Grief softened her edges but strengthened her heart. She used it to comfort viewers, relate to people she interviewed, and stay grounded during her hardest personal moments. She learned to give more, love deeper, and appreciate each day with more honesty. Grief did not break her. It deepened her. It made her a better anchor, a more patient friend, a more present partner, and a more resilient human being. Every tear she shed in private became part of the emotional wisdom she carried on air. But after a lifetime of storms, Robin would finally step into a chapter unlike any she had ever known, one shaped not by survival, but by abundance. When the storms finally quiet, what remains? For Robin Roberts, now 65 years old in 2025, what remains is a life shaped by peace, stability, and gratitude after decades of struggle. Her net worth is estimated at around $55 million, a number that reflects not luxury or excess, but years of waking up before dawn, carrying national news on her shoulders, and surviving battles that could have taken her away too soon. Money was never her motivation, but today it allows her a calm life she once only dreamed about. Her main home in Connecticut is her sanctuary. It sits on spacious land surrounded by tall trees and quiet nature. The house is warm, bright, and filled with small touches that make it feel safe. Large windows let sunlight pour in. Soft colors decorate the rooms. The house has no loud decoration or flashy design. It is simple, peaceful, and built with intention. She often spends early mornings in her kitchen, sipping tea, reading, or sitting at the table with Amber. The two of them enjoy slow starts to their day, something Robin could never do during her long years of waking up at 2:45 a.m. She also keeps a retreat in Key West, Florida, which offers a different kind of peace. The house is close to the water, and she loves the calming sound of waves. When she steps onto the back porch, she sees the open sea stretching out in front of her. This place is where she goes to breathe deeply, unwind, and remind herself of how far she has come. She walks with Lucas, her dog, along the edge of the property, enjoying the sun and the quiet air. For someone who lived so many years under pressure, this kind of stillness feels like a blessing. Her daily routine now centers around health and balance. She trains regularly, not to chase a certain appearance, but to keep her body strong after the battles it has endured. She takes long walks, practices simple workouts, and listens to her body. She also prays every morning, repeating the same words her mother once taught her: light, love, power, presence. This prayer keeps her grounded and connected to the people she has lost. Lucas is always by her side, bringing comfort and laughter to her days. Having a pet has helped her appreciate small moments, the simple joys she once didn't have time for, and her mornings, once filled with stress and rushing, are now calm. She eats breakfast slowly, enjoys the sunlight coming through her windows, and embraces the feeling of living at a gentler pace. Some of her personal belongings hold special meaning for her. She owns a small collection of Rolex watches. She does not wear them to show wealth or status. She keeps them because they mark important moments in her life, like milestones she never thought she would reach. To her, each watch is a reminder to value time, to understand that every second truly matters, especially after coming so close to losing everything. Even with her success, Robin does not focus on extravagant purchases or luxury. She lives comfortably, but she does not chase material things. Peace is her biggest gift, and she protects it. She has learned what matters and what doesn't. Expensive items do not impress her. People, health, love, and purpose do. Her heart remains focused on giving back. She raises money for Be the Match, the organization that played a major role in her survival. She continues supporting cancer research, education programs, and families facing medical crises. She funds scholarships in her parents' names, helping young people pursue an education just as her parents encouraged her. She donates quietly, without expecting public praise. She believes in helping because she remembers when she needed help herself. Her life today is driven by purpose more than achievement. She knows her legacy isn't defined by ratings or awards. It is defined by how she made people feel, the lives she touched, and the hope she brought into the world. Viewers see her as a symbol of resilience, someone who faced cancer twice, lost loved ones, balanced public pressure, and still continued to rise with grace. She represents strength without hardness, confidence without ego, and success without forgetting where she came from. Her relationship with Amber is stronger than ever. After surviving both of their cancer battles, they understand each other on a level few couples ever reach. Their home is filled with laughter, support, and simple joys like cooking dinner together, watching the sunset, and enjoying peaceful evenings. They lean on each other, not because they are weak, but because they have learned that love can grow even stronger after facing hardship. Her goddaughter Sydney also brings happiness to her life. Sydney is energetic, hopeful, and full of curiosity. Spending time with her reminds Robin of the importance of guiding the next generation. Their bond shows that family is not only created by blood, it is created by love, responsibility, and presence. Today, Robin stands as a reminder to millions that pain does not have to define your life. She shows that healing is possible, that success can be earned without losing kindness, and that storms can shape you without destroying you. Her journey encourages people to keep going, even when they feel tired or discouraged. She teaches that strength is not found in perfection, but in choosing to rise again and again. Her story carries messages of endurance, hope, and the belief that every challenge comes with a chance to grow. She has survived illnesses, heartbreak, and loss, yet she continues to walk forward with dignity. She lives each day with purpose, gratitude, and an open heart. Because Robin Roberts' story isn't just about surviving storms, it's about what she does next with the sunlight she fought so hard to earn.